What made you wish you never survived a shooting? I was mixing chemicals in AP chemistry when the shot started, and everyone ran, but I froze until my teacher pushed me into the supply closet. 3 kids died in the hallway outside, while I breathed through paper towels to stop hyperventilating. When the police finally opened the door 5 hours later, I was covered in chemicals that burned my skin, but I was alive. After I got home from the hospital, Mom made my favorite lasagna, and we ate it together on the couch, while Dad kept touching my hair like he needed to make sure I was real. Kids from school sent cards saying I was brave, even though all I did was hide and shake while my classmates died. Mom drove me to therapy twice a week and sat in the parking lot with a stack of books about trauma recovery. The morning I finally went back to school, Mom packed my lunch with all my safe foods and tucked in a note that said, "My warrior girl." I actually felt okay walking through those doors after she'd walked me through the building 3 times that weekend, checking every exit. Her car appeared in the visitor's lot during second period. By lunch, she'd moved to a closer spot where she could see the cafeteria windows. 2 weeks later, she was waiting outside chemistry when the bell rang. "Let's get you home," she said, taking my backpack while I stood there confused. Then my phone started buzzing between every class with texts asking where I was, and if I didn't respond within 2 minutes, she'd call the office. When coach handed out volleyball tryout forms, Mom was somehow already in the gym shaking her head. I started arguing at dinner that I needed normal back, but she pushed her laptop across the table with 20 tabs open about PTSD and survivor's guilt until I stopped eating. One night, I woke up to find her sitting on my bed with a notebook, pencil scratching against paper as she documented each time I'd rolled over. Jake asked me to winter formal, but before I could answer, Mom had already called his mother to discuss appropriate boundaries for trauma survivors. When I screamed that she was suffocating me, she pulled out her phone and showed me photos of those 3 dead kids' memorial pages. The new security guard started work on a Monday, and by Tuesday, we were in the basement classroom she'd set up with monitors showing empty hallways. I found Dad in the garage and begged him to make her stop, but he just held me while I cried and whispered that Mom almost lost me once. The morning of my SATs, I dressed quietly in the dark and tiptoed to my door to find a padlock threaded through a new latch. Mom sat cross-legged in the hallway, laptop open to a message board where usernames like Justice Seeker 481 discussed finishing what the shooter started. I told her I'd studied for months, but she turned the screen toward me, scrolling through post after post about survivor targeting. Her hands shook as she showed me 2 duffel bags stuffed with cash and documents, my school photo already swapped for someone named Rebecca on a Nebraska driver's license. I tried to climb out my window, but she grabbed my ankles, yanking so hard I hit my head on the dresser and saw stars. Blood ran down my temple while she pressed ice against the wound and explained how standardized testing centers collected facial recognition data for government databases. Her words blurred together as I clawed at her face, leaving red lines down both cheeks. Dad's phone sat on the kitchen counter, but when I lunged for it, the screen stayed black. She'd let them all die overnight, batteries drained. She returned with scissors and a box of black dye and started cutting before I could pull away. Chunks of blonde hair fell while I thrashed and screamed loud enough that someone started pounding on our front door. "She's having an episode," Mom called out calmly, never stopping the scissors. She scattered white pills across my bedspread. They were veterinary sedatives she'd ordered online. She held one between her fingers. When I clamped my mouth shut, she pulled out a syringe and said she'd use it if I made her. I went limp then, letting her think I'd given up. The police broke through the door 20 minutes later to find me barely conscious on the floor, Mom still cutting the last pieces of my hair. Mom's doctors say she might come home next year, but I moved across the country anyway. I'm 21 now and sleep with scissors under my pillow, though I'm not sure if it's for protection or comfort. Jay texts sometimes, but I can't meet anyone in public spaces. At 3 a.m. when I can't sleep, I find myself reading her letters about danger patterns and surveillance networks. My hair grew back to my shoulders, but I still feel the weight of what she cut away.